Indigenous people have an ancient connection to this land. Our oral narratives tell us about times when climate stress forced our ancestors to reimagine their cultures. We are here because they succeeded in adapting to new conditions and finding ways to live and thrive. We are still here. We stand ready to mobilize our traditional knowledge to benefit the modern world. We wish to share with anyone who will listen. However, sharing our folklore only endures because a younger generation is willing to hear those old stories and consider the lessons we can learn. Indigenous knowledge systems came from lived experience of the environments and resources of our customary homeland. Generation after generation recorded changes in the climate and the impact that had on their lives. They composed their spoken stories that informed their responses to environmental change. Observation, inductive reasoning, and logical analysis gave our ancestors facts that informed their choices so they could make appropriate decisions. These are also the fundamental principles that modern scientists rely on to fashion their theories that explain the conditions we will encounter in the future. While our traditional stories used humor and other literary devices to entertain their audience, they also contain valuable lessons that can guide us today. Our task is to listen and find inspiration in the creative solutions our ancestors found helpful. Local knowledge will be a big factor because Canada is a big country with varied landscapes that include Arctic and coastal environments, as well as grasslands and mountains. There are also many people who possess different cultures that respond to their local environment. Their knowledge encompasses ancient and recent times. So from the past we might consider examples that embody traditional lifeways. In Ontario, Indigenous people might emphasize knowledge of harvesting wild rice or the traditional calendars that farmers use to plan their crop year. Due to the proximity of the Great Lakes, navigating waterways by observing the stars was a skill that we might overlook because of light pollution. Similarly, we might dismiss the traditional practice of mental mapping due to our reliance on global positioning systems. Yet geography also explains the way we relate to the toponyms we see on the map. Take Canada, for example. The word is derived from Kanata, which is an Indigenous language. Other places such as Ontario, Saskatchewan, Toronto, Ottawa offer us glimpses of the original Indigenous geographies. We study history and geography because they reveal our collective identity. From them, we create the stories of our nation. Indigenous people also possess knowledge about land management that future planners can look to for guidance. For example, using fires to manage the landscape was a technique that our ancestors developed over thousands of years. The fires of spring were an important method of controlling the environment to encourage biome diversity. Modern ecologists agree that plant and animal life benefit from cycles of fires and regrowth. Future foresters and other land managers can look to Indigenous knowledge or places where they find agreement before proceeding with their management plans. In our contemporary world, communication is the path to success. Too often in the past, Canadian officials refused to communicate with Indigenous people. We were always told the country could not afford our priorities. Yet Canada became a wealthy nation by selling all the resources taken from our homelands. Therefore, overcoming marginalization and isolation inform our long-term goal of adapting to modern Canada. It is an obstacle that we can overcome by facilitating communication. Shutting down one line of communication will be another missed opportunity. History informs us of failed policies that we can avoid, but one lesson we can take is that we cannot wait for the next generation to start a dialogue. Communicating with each other is overdue, and going silent is not the best way to engage in a conversation. If we don't develop the communication skills now, we will be telling future generations that we could not figure out a way to build communication. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission called on provinces to make Indigenous contributions a part of school curriculum. I can only speak from memory. When I was in grade school some 60 years ago, I never saw any content about Indigenous people in my school's curriculum. Back then, our school's purpose was designed to make us Canadian. There was no room for cultural knowledge and customary approaches to teaching students. I know that the teachers I had back then did not have the ability or did not learn the skills to listen to our voices and learn our perspective. If that is still the case, I can only conclude that we have learned nothing in 60 years. I hope the current generation can do better.